running reports kind of part two here. So how are we gonna run a report or do a report? Part two, when we left off, just to rehash, we had separated the loading of the data from the file, or the reading of the data from the file, created a read visits from file that returns all the data loaded into objects, and then the objects loaded into a list, more specifically an array list. Then we pass that array list to a function called display visits, which uses a for loop to loop through and display it. So what I want to do then is filter this list down to only show things, say, that happened in the last week. Okay, so this is going to stay the same. I'm going to get rid of these comments here because I think that was more for just an idea of things. So we're going to follow this pattern kind of in other places and add a filtering step in the middle. So if we remember, we get our read visits from file, add visit, save visit, run reports. Our first report is run visits over the last week. I'm holding down Control on Windows or Command on Mac and jumping to that function. And so here we have our visits over the last week. And we know that what we're going to do is get the visits and display them. Okay, so I can just copy those functions from above, loading the visits, displaying them. So in fact, our report is already going to be working. It's just going to be incorrect, right? So if I do run reports and I say visits over last week, it shows me all visits, right? So it's working, but it's not accurate, right? It's not, I haven't filtered the list down to only show reports in a certain time period. So I'll hit enter and then for, I feel like something, maybe it's just the levels there. So it still feels a little off there. We'll go back to that if we need to. So how do I filter something? So basically what you do is you just loop through the list again. So we do our for loop. Again, I like to kind of put my basic structure there first. And my trick is for parenthesis, single, curly bracket, hit enter, and then that finishes my curly bracket. Then I come up here and worry about what I'm going to put in here. So I'll do, I want each visit object to be kind of handed to me on the conveyor belt from the list of visits. And then as I'm in here, I want to do something with them. What do I want to do? I want to take them and put them in a list, a shorter list of visits. So I'll call this visits over last week. I should say visits in last week. I should have kept that, but we decided in class to change it. So visits over the last week, and I'll create a new array list. And basically, as I find the visits that happened over the last week, I will add them to this new array list. So right now I'm adding all the visits for the last week into this array list. So, and then when I display visits, I won't display all the visits, I'll display the visits over the last week. So in here, all I really need is something you guys know pretty well now, which is an if. I'll complete my if, hit enter here, and I'll say if the visit visited on is, let's see, so there's lots of ways to kind of do this. We could accept input, deciding what the last week is, that sort of thing. So if I look at my data, just so I can kind of see now, it looks like, yeah, there's a lot of things. So visits over last week. Yeah, usually I should do kind of the current date, which right now when I'm recording this, it's Sunday, April 27th. So I would do -7 days, right, from today, which as you can see, is only going to get me these 3 entries. But I guess that's how I'll write this for now, even though I'm only going to get these entries because we kind of started things this way. So I'll do today minus 7 days to be the beginning of the week. So I will calculate out, so I'll say date time local. Oh, sorry, local date time. And I'll say, just say start date. Okay. Equals, and I'll do the current date time, so local date time dot now minus 7. I might have to call a method on it. I don't think I can actually just do that. Dot minus days, right? Minus weeks. Yeah, we'll do 1 here. See how that comes out. So minus a week ago, right? And that'll give me back a start date. And I'll say a visited on happened is greater than or equal to the start date. What doesn't it like here? So to do comparisons on visited on, do I have to do visited on dot greater than between, is before, is equal, is after, is after looks promising to start, right? We'll say these things need to be after a week ago. And then I could get the end date of the week. So instead of minus, I'm guessing there'll be a plus weeks from now, and we'll call this the end date. And I'm not sure I'm doing this like the Java right way, but I'm gonna, so I'll say visited on is after, so I'll go back and check myself in a minute, and then I'll say and visit dot visited on is before the end date. I kind of want after, so this might leave a couple days out that I want, so I might need to adjust this, but it's the general gist of the idea. Then in those cases I would take and add those to the visits over the last week. Yeah, I'm not feeling super good about my date checking logic here, but this is the basic idea. You get a range of dates and then check them against something. I'm just not sure about this expression right here, but let's try it. Okay. So I'll say run reports 3, visits over last week, and it gives me, it's giving me way too much stuff. April 26th through April 27th. Seems like it's still giving me everything. So either my logic's wrong or I'm printing out the wrong list. So I did do visits over last week. I added them. It's after the start date, which is today. Minus week. Oh, I want to do it just till now, right? Not plus a week. Although I still think this logic's off because it seems like it shouldn't bring back everything in that case. Let's try it. Run reports, few visits over last week. Oh no, this is looking promising. This looks like what we would expect, because um, we're kind of going back a week ago, and there were only basically 2 or 3 days there that happened. If we look at our data, right, we're just trying to pick up kind of things that happened today. If today's the 27th, we're trying to pick up things today and then backwards, right? And I think that's what this just did. No, 28's just 26th is. Okay. So I'm just gonna go kind of check myself here though, and say, give this to like Gemini or something and say, hey, is there a better way for me to, is there a better way for me to filter these objects based on the last week and this implementation? And I think there's gonna be, but let's see. So I paste my code in using the Stream API. So that's something we haven't really learned yet. Using a predicate. Is after, oh, is within last week, is before. Okay. So I'll say, my class hasn't learned streams or predicates yet. Is my logic correct the way I wrote it? Okay, so my logic's absolutely correct the way I've written it. Maybe we could keep, but yeah, we're saying after the start date, so today minus a week till today, right? That's the last week. So I think we're in pretty good shape here, right? And we're getting visits over the last week. And you basically end up then, if I say run visits over last week, display visits, I think there's some more refactoring we could do to, yeah, we could probably break this into a separate function, but this isn't too bad. Yeah, let's just leave this at this for now. Let me think for a second. I do think there's some opportunity as we write more reports to get more reuse out of this. But especially this logic right here. Oh, this could become filter the list, right? So this could become, if I extract this into a method, I could say filter visits over last week. I don't love that method name. I do want filter visits, 2 visits over last week. How about we say filter 2 visits over last week? Not bad. Okay. So then we get visits over last week. And so now do you see the, so we got the reading of the data, the filtering of the data, right? And then the visits over the last week. Although I think these could have ended up inside there, right? So I'm gonna undo what I did and try to refactor again and consider this, which I think I should, to be part of this, and then try to extract this out, right? You see how then I wouldn't have to pass the dates necessarily. Okay, so, but it might come out. Yeah, this will be interesting. Let's see what it does. Extract a method So I said filter to visits over last week. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted, right? So it's like 3 steps. You can almost read them. You read the data, you filter it, and then you display that filtered data. And I think that reads really clean. So let me run this, and I'll say run reports, visits over last week. And yep, it just shows the visits that happened over the last week. Press enter to return to report menu, and then return to main menu, and then exit out of the application. And I'll call that good on this video. I will call this branch add visit. I'm sorry, not add visit, but run reports. Yeah, I'll just probably call it run reports because I did. Well, see, I think I did 2 videos. So I'll have a run reports part 1 and run reports part 2, and this will be part 2. All right, I think that's all the videos I'll do for now, unless people get confused about particular things.